Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center. It's here that we discuss things related to actually building what I refer to as the premier accounting firm in your area. This is a podcast hosted by myself, someone with 20 plus years working with accounting professionals to help them start and build successful businesses, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. It's here on the show that I invite guests, experts to actually share with us insights that we can actually apply in our business to effectively work on marketing, selling, pricing, perhaps building our business to offer quality services, training our staff, onboarding our clients, retaining our clients, as well as things related to our mental health. All of these things are intended to actually empower you to build your business confidently and competently. Now, for today's show, we actually have someone I'm excited to speak with. It's someone I've known him for some time. It's David Neagle. He is a speaker, best-selling author, founder of a multi-million-dollar global consulting company, Life Is Now, Inc., and has hosted a Business Daily News broadcast, or podcast rather, that is called The Successful Mindset. David's quest is to teach people to think successfully so that they can experience personal freedom. Being in the personal and professional development industry for more than 20 years, David has had the privilege of working alongside other well-known mentors like Bob Proctor and Tony Robbins, and his clients include a wide variety of very popular and well-known people. David has tens of thousands of students across the globe and is one of the architects of the personal growth industry. Through David's mentoring and podcast, thousands of entrepreneurs, experts, and self-employed professionals have gained the confidence to find the right mindset needed to increase their revenue, turning their endeavors into a 7 or 8 figure venture. Basically, forever as an avid speaker or a student, David is actually focused on core visions to bring expanded awareness and higher consciousness to as many people as possible and find greater ways of helping leaders make bigger impacts so that they can lead their greatest possible lives and serve the greatest number of people. So, David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Roger. It's great to be here.
This is going to be a lot of fun. You know, one of the things that I wanted to do is just with your great experience and the 20 years plus that you've been doing this is just share with my audience how you got into this industry, what got you into that place of getting to become what some people years ago referred to as a motivational speaker, someone that's inspirational, but more importantly, have a message to share. What got you on that path, if you will?
It started in September of 1989. I'm going to go through this quick, right? So it's got
1989.
1989, September of 1989, right after my son was born, I had a near-death experience in a water skiing accident. I got sucked through a dam on the Illinois River, and I was only one of 2 people that ever survived going through it. And apparently a lot of people had died going through that dam. They had no precaution to like, if you got separated from the boat or your engine went out on the boat, you were going through that. I mean, that's it. It was going to suck you in. You were going down the other side. So what that did for me was I was 24 years old. So it woke me up to the idea that we're going to die, right? Like, you don't think about that when you're 24. But I think what was more, what created more of a sense of urgency was that 5 minutes before I was struggling for my life, I was having the time of my life. And I made that transition into, my God, I might not be here, in an hour, that type of thing. But then I was a high school dropout at 17 years old, and I got married. We had a couple of kids, and I quickly found out that I did not have the skills to live up to the responsibility that I was creating for myself.
Yeah.
I was working on a dock. I was driving a truck, and we were on food stamps. We lost everything. Car repossessed. We went bankrupt. The whole 9 years. We were living in a terrible neighborhood, and I said, I've got to figure out a way to turn this around. Now, the error in my thinking was that I have to go back to college or go to college because I didn't finish high school. I did get my GED, but and I was trying to figure out a way to come up with more money doing what I was doing, and I couldn't for 2 years. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I felt worse about myself as a human being, as a father, as a husband. And after 2 years of working as hard as I could to try to change it, I just had a meltdown one night in the back of this trailer. And I go, and this is what happened. I'm literally sobbing like an ugly cry, like a little kid. And I'm going, God, show me what to do. I have no idea. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. But if you're there, if there's a God there, please show me something, because I can't take this anymore. And this voice in my head said, David, change your attitude. And it all started from that moment.
Wow.
So I explored that idea. I came up with 3 things that I changed that night. And in 30 days, my income tripled. I went from 20,000 a year to 62,000. And I didn't even know anybody that was making 62,000 that would be in 92, 93. And studied for 7 years to try to find out what the hell I actually did, because I had no idea what I did. And then I started helping other people just in general, because people were coming up to me going, how are you, I mean, it was just a few years ago, you were a bankrupt bum, and look at you now. How did you do this? And I started telling them. And then some people would take the advice and they would turn their lives around. And I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to show people what I didn't know that worked. And the other thing that floored me was how fast it changed.
Yeah.
Right. It seemed to break all of the middle class rules that I was raised by, that it's going to take a hard time, a long time. You got to go to school for years. You got to know people, blah, 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 down that whole road. And none of that was true. None of it was true. So when I figured out what happened, I was like, I'm an evangelist for this message for sure.
Well, I want to first of all thank you for sharing that story, because I know a lot of my listeners may have something in their lives that's similar, where you have that pivotal moment. And like you, I had something like that happen in my life. I can think very vividly of two specific experiences, one of which wasn't a near-death experience, but it was close enough in my mind as to, am I ready to meet my maker? And when I had that is something that I reflect back on often, and it is a pivotal moment in my life. It's very personal. And as you were talking about this, you did talk about those epiphanies of there's three things that need to take place. What are those three things?
So the three things that I changed, first of all, how I came up with the three things was I looked for somebody that I thought was successful that I could relate to, which happened to be the owner of the food import company that I was working for, the largest food importer in the United States at the time. And I said, what's the difference between this guy and me? Right. And I said, well, he must have loved what he did, because I hated what I did every day. It was a mind game just to get myself not to create some mysterious illness, not to go to work. Right. Like, that's how much I hated what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I said, he must have loved it. I'll act like I love what I do. The second thing was, he must have done a really good job, and I didn't. I was working to go home, and I had this mentality, like this working class union mentality, because I was raised in Chicago. Don't do more than you're paid for. You're just a number. Nobody cares about you. So I walk in, as a young man with this huge chip on my shoulder, like, I don't have to do anything, type of an attitude. And if I broke something, it didn't matter. If I didn't do my job right, it didn't matter. I'm not getting paid to think, and all this stuff. And I thought, I'm going to do every job to the best of my ability, which was a hell of a statement, because nobody had showed me how to do that in my life up to that point. And the third thing was, I was going to start treating people with total respect. Now, it wasn't that I was raised to treat people disrespectfully. It was quite the contrary. But I had developed such a bad attitude that I was taking out my hostilities and my own shame and all of that on other people. And I would just start screaming at people. Like, if I perceived that you were telling me what to do or getting in my face, I would just unleash on people. It was nuts. So those are the three things that I changed. And I said, I'm going to change those. I'll do this for a year and we'll see what happens. I never imagined that everything was going to change in 30 days, but it did.
I love those three things. I can relate to those three things, as I've also been a study of people who are successful. I similarly found those types of traits in them. You refer to it as loving what they're doing, getting away from that job set mentality. I found it to be passion. They were passionate about what they do. They loved what they do. And so that was very important. The thing is, to quality, though, they do actually do things with a sense of, I'm doing something with my hands, with my mind. I want it to be good quality, something I can be proud of. And so that was very important. But the third thing that you indicated as to how you saw other people, seeing them for who they could be, their potential, being children of God, for example, that's something that is very different than taking out that ire that you're referring to on everyone that you met because life was frustrating. So you're going to kind of dish it out on everyone else. Those are three very impactful things. So as you applied these principles, you said very quickly, within months, you saw opportunities present themselves, things change, you started making 3 times as much money. How did that change of attitude now manifest itself in the real world to give you the opportunity to actually earn more?
So what happened was, I became aware of an opportunity that had been around me for 2 years that I previously did not see as an opportunity. A matter of fact, it was something that I would routinely judge and put the person that did it down. Because we were a food distributor, we had a guy that would come in with a fuel truck twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. His name was Drew Batty. He lived in Whiting, Indiana, and he would fill the trailers. Now, part of my job was to tell him which trailers we filled with food for the grocery stores. They would go put diesel fuel in the heaters or the air, because we lived in Chicago, summer, winter. And he would come in and he would always smell like diesel fuel. Now I was on a dock, right? And so think about the mindset that I'm coming from. He's outside, rain, snow, hot, humid, mosquitoes, whatever. He always has to be out there, and all I am on is in a covered dock. And I'm judging this guy like, you suck. You got to do this, and laughing at him and stuff. And we would talk. It wasn't I didn't like it. I didn't dislike him. We actually kind of became friends over the 2 years. But he would always say to me, "When are you going to get out of here? When are you going to get out of here?" He's like, you could do something different. When are you going to get out of here? And I had an excuse. So the same week that I changed my mindset, he happened to say that to me again. He goes, "Dude, you got to get out of this place." He said, "Why don't you come to work with us?" And I started laughing at the guy. And I'm like, "Come on, get out of here." I said, "Look, here's the deal. You drive a bomb. Why the hell would I want to drive a bomb?" I said, "Has anybody ever died driving a fuel truck?" Because I'm thinking to myself, he carries diesel fuel and gasoline on wheels. What if somebody smashes into you, right? And I go, "Has anybody ever died?" And he goes, "Yeah, last year." He goes, "Yes. Last year, a guy rolled a truck over on I-65 in Indiana and burned to death." And I'm like, see, that doesn't make me any more comfortable about wanting to do this. And I had a series of judgmental questions. And the last question I had was, besides all of that, how much could you possibly be making?
Yeah.
As if I was making more than this guy was. And he said to me, he looked me right in the eye. He goes, "Last year I made 50. And I'm like, "There's no way you made 50. I'm like, "You're lying to me." He said, "Well, I'm coming next week. I'll bring you a check stub and I'll show you." He comes next Tuesday. He brings it. He shows me. And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding." Now he's got my attention.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I had to go through all of these different things in my mind and reframe them in order to be able to do this. And one of the biggest ones was I was at the bottom of the seniority list. It was a union company. That's why my income tripled, right? Because I went from non-union to union in Chicago. And being on the bottom of the seniority list, I get laid off first. Part of that company was seasonal because they did construction equipment and stuff like that, which was a big part of their business. But in Chicago, construction shuts down in the wintertime. So depending on how long winter lasts, you might be out of work for a long time. I had a wife and kids, right? So I had to take a major risk. I said, I know what I'm doing now. I know I could go back to making nothing again. Here's an opportunity out. Let me do this. And literally in 30 days, I had a check that was triple what I had been making 30 days before.
I'm loving this. Twice in this, you've actually shared mindset. What is that worker class mindset that you're referring to? Is it different than the 3 things that you had an epiphany on?
It's different I think it starts off differently because I think it starts off with the idea that you can't do what you want in life and you can't have what you want in life. A lot of the way that I was raised, a lot of the people that I work with, small business owners, all started off working for somebody else. They never dreamed that they could actually do something that they loved. Like you said, passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were passionate about. They never dreamed that they could actually do that. So when a person doesn't think that they can do something, they don't generally look for evidence that they can. They look for evidence that they can't, which is exactly what I was doing. I never thought in a million years I could do what I want. But here's the scary part. I didn't know what that was. I had never, and most people don't, because it's verbalized to us. You can't do whatever you want in life. You better grow up. Here's the way the world works. You got to go to school. You got to get an education. You got to pick something from, what's in the marketplace now. And then you got to do that for a long time and work your butt off and climb the ladder and all that. And none of that appealed to me, right? That was not my personality. It didn't appeal to me. I had other interests in life. And I didn't even study as a kid. Like I told you, I was a high school dropout because I hated school. When this change happened, I became the most voracious reader you ever met in your life. I turned my car into an audio library.
Oh, yeah.
My current library is over 4,000 books. I mean, I can't get enough I found out that I loved to learn. I just didn't love to learn things that I wasn't interested in. So that, I think that's a major part of it. The second part was the three things that was like, how can I apply this right now in everyday life, right? So I literally changed the person that I was. I transformed that night on the dock. It was a conscious choice transformation.
One of the things that I don't think you mentioned specifically, but you alluded to it, is the idea of manifestation. There is something to be said that once you're open to opportunities, once you're ready to make transitions, you can actually see them around you, where before, even though they existed, you didn't notice them, but
Right.
they start to manifest themselves simply because of the fact that you're now entertaining and are ready for them. It's kind of like when the student is ready, the master appears type of a philosophy. Now, one of the things that I want to do is for my audience is kind of now take these things that we've been discussing and apply them now into the entrepreneurial space, because I do feel that a lot of what you're describing here is something that someone experiences, but especially when they go into that entrepreneurial space of taking the risk, starting a business. So how does the worker class mindset, for example, change or hurt the mindset of an entrepreneur?
They think that so in the subconscious mind, from the moment that we're born, we're under the authority of another person. And in fact, the authority is so important biologically, not just spiritually, but biologically. If that authority was to leave or abandon us, we would die as a child. So there's the reality of that inside of us. If you look back maybe 200 years, you'll see, and you study the way people behaved in different communities around the world, almost all of them had significant rites of passage the teenagers would go through to
Mhm.
claim their authority as an adult, to show their bravery, their competency of some skill set, and then they would be given a responsibility within the community. So they knew that they were this person now, right? They were responsible for their own decisions. We've gone away from that in an enormous way. And
Mhm.
kids kind of just meld into being an adult. So subconsciously, their mind doesn't realize they're the authority. So they're always looking for somebody else to promote them or give them permission to advance in their own life. And they become stuck under the self illusion of, I can't do this. And they don't know what the reason is. And when you say you're not being your own authority, you're the one that promotes yourself. You want to be at the top, right? And you can start at the top. Then you have to claim that you're at the top, but you have to behave like that person, and you'll manifest the results that you want. Most people start at the bottom in business, and they do the same thing that they were taught to do working for somebody else, which is work really hard, sacrifice everything that they have, make a very little bit amount of money, make it painful, and maybe someday I'll get there, and they don't realize they're in charge of promoting themselves. So
Well,
that's how I think it messes them up in the beginning.
Well, one of the things I want to tap into just real briefly is you talked about how in culture, in society, there is this thing that typically takes place that causes an individual to go from being a child or youth to being an adult, someone that is now independent and responsible. And every culture typically has this. You've got bar mitzvahs, you've got quinceañeras, you've got individuals that go into the military. It's that moment in our culture or life where we're able to say to the individual, you're now responsible for yourself. You have to make your own decisions. And I do feel that that's something that is lacking in society. There's a lot of things going on right now, studies and reports that say as we've removed some of these events, what's happened is people become very aimless, which is why you've got 25 and 35-year-olds still living at home in the basement, not doing anything because they're aimless. They didn't have that moment wherein we basically said, we now see you as an adult. You are now responsible for yourself. You now need to pull your bootstraps up and go make things happen. And that's something that's powerful. But having said that, that lacks in society today. For me, it was becoming an Eagle Scout. For me, it was in my particular culture is going on what we refer to as a mission. These things are things that then say you're now on your own.
Yeah.
That's powerful. But the second thing I want to tap into is with this mindset as it relates to becoming an entrepreneur. There is an independence there. There is this sense of if it's up to me, I've got to do it. But that then begs the question of how does someone who is growing a business get to the point where they can comfortably delegate and actually now get the support they need to grow their business? Because I think that's a very delicate transition from, yes, I'm going to make it happen, to now realizing I need the help of others to really achieve this. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
I think you're 100% right on. I think now, when I started to build my business, I didn't know anything that you just said. I didn't
Mm,
know it. I didn't understand it. Even though I had worked my way into upper management for this petroleum company that I was working for, I
okay.
really didn't learn any business principles, right? So I had to learn it, as I began to learn it and study it, the idea was first to create a vision yourself for where the company is going, and then
Yeah.
get buy-in with the group, right? So
Yes.
I want to know what the people that I work with, what is their vision? How is my vision going to help them accomplish their vision? And how can they help me accomplish my vision? And we're creating like an elite sports team so that everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do and they want to actually do it. So I came from the position of in the beginning of like, this is your job, do what you're told type of thing. And I learned that that was a ridiculous concept. And it was very archaic, right? There was much better ways to get buy-in so that everybody really wanted to do what they wanted to do. And since we made those changes in our own company, it's been absolutely incredible. And with the other people that I teach that are in business, it's the same way. It's like once a person buys into what you're doing, they see how it fits what they want. Then the idea is you have a very specific position in which you do whatever you're great at in the company and hopefully the thing that you love to do the most. And then, but you also have other people that have the same ability, but in a different expertise. And you're able to delegate those things to those individuals so that you can so it's kind of like you're the orchestrator, right? But everything gets done in a really wonderful way. So I 100% agree with what it is that you're saying. And again, I I see a lot of people have a growth period, a growth phase with the idea of delegating from their own self-worth, right? There's a lot
Mhm.
of guilt a lot of times that people go through. I'm telling somebody to do that. I'm not doing that. Shouldn't I be the one that does everything? And there's also a voice in their head from the middle class that says, do everything yourself. Why would you pay somebody else to do something that you could do yourself? And they just stay stuck without the idea like this is not supposed to be difficult, right? This could be amazing if you would do the thing you're great at and then hire other A players, so to speak, that can do the things that you're not great at, right? And then you provide also, like one of the things I'm proudest of is the people that work with us are building their life off of something that I decided to create.
Mm,
I love that contribution to society instead of just trying to milk off the idea of
mm.
somebody else's hard work.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That may be a little long-winded, but I totally agree with what you're saying.
Well, thank you. Well, Dave, one of the things that I want to go back to is as part of this whole delegation discussion, earlier you brought up having that middle class job mindset. Well, being an entrepreneur and being what we refer to as a solopreneur is really just a glorified job. You're doing everything in the business. To get to that point where you're what I refer to as an accountrepreneur running a business, it depends on a number of things, one of which is your willingness to delegate. And that's what we're talking about now. But that willingness to delegate starts somewhere. And what I refer to it as is you first have to document the processes and procedures that you're actually doing so that you can ultimately duplicate that by having someone else mimic you, do what you're doing and get the same result. Once you've documented and duplicated and the efforts are now creating the same results, you can now delegate, give this person the responsibilities. They're now accountable for this. You can now let go and let them run with it. So if you can go through this process of first of all documenting, then duplicating, and now delegating, you can get to that point where you are truly an entrepreneur. You're building your empire. Why? Because you're taking and implementing processes that actually have predictable results that you can build your company on because you know that your customers are going to receive that same quality product or service that you expect them to receive. So as we're going through this process, it's a mental shift. You speak of it as this middle class mindset. Well, I think that's very true. We have to get out of our way and see the potential or the possibilities that we all have. So I want to ask the question of how can a business owner actually prioritize the time that they have to ensure that they're actually focusing on high impact activities? Because we're all busy. There's lots of things that we can do all day long and go home feeling like we're exhausted because we worked so hard. But did we work on the right things? So what is it that you refer to as high impact activities?
Sales. That's the first thing. So I'm a very firm believer that the foundational skill in every business starts with sales. And here's the reason why. If an individual will learn how to sell and really get good at it,
Mm.
it makes every other thing in the business that you're going to do easier, right? Because when you talk about delegate, you got to have somebody to delegate to.
Hmm.
And one of the things that we hear is, well, I can't hire anybody. I can't afford, how am I going to pay for that, pay for that person? And you've got to, coach them into the idea that that person's going to pay for themselves if you're hiring in the correct order for what it is that you need done. But the if you can't earn the money to pay for the future of the company, providing that you're creating a company that nobody's investing in, you're bootstrapping it yourself. The idea is that when you master sales, you will always have an influx of money to be able to do what you need, which doesn't eliminate other problems, but it makes the other problems much easier to deal with. And it's interesting to hear you talk about, getting all the processes down, because
Uh-huh.
my way of doing that in the beginning was just having somebody watch me.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing. But I quickly learned to bring in people that already had a skill set beyond mine in other areas that they could teach me, right? Like bookkeeping, accounting, obviously, right? That type of thing. But yeah, so like for me, what I do every day is I'm a coach. I lead groups of people. I speak on other people's stages. I do many interviews, and I kind of oversee what the company's doing. But I have other people that do everything else, and I don't get in their way to do those things. I only want to do what I love to do and the things that are most important for me to have done, to be done within the company itself. So does that answer your question?
It does. It does. And I want to go to the point that you just made at the beginning of it, saying that sales matter most. We have a phrase that we actually focus on that says, nothing happens until you make a sale. You could be a phenomenal individual, in our case, accounting professionals. And as you're offering accounting services, that's wonderful. But unless you have a paying customer, who cares? You can be amazing, but unless you're out there playing the game, it doesn't matter. And so the first thing is sales. And as you were talking about hiring someone, it basically boils down into one to two things. Either the position you're filling is a revenue producing position that justifies their compensation. They're making more or creating more revenue than they're being paid, or they are freeing you or another salesperson up to be more productive and produce more revenue, more so than what they're costing. So you can have both situations, and we just need to make sure in either case, are we now as a company generating more revenue to cover that role? They're either individually doing so or they're freeing up someone else to do so. And if that's the case, then you're moving in the right direction because the company is growing at the top line, and that's very powerful. So that brings me to the next question, which is, you've got your high impact activities, you're prioritizing where you should be spending your quality time. How can you actually share some strategies or techniques to now actually help us distinguish between those things that we should be delegating versus doing?
So my belief is um, that you should only do the things that you actually love doing. I do not believe
Mm.
that you should spend your time doing things that you don't love. There's absolutely no reason for it, because if there's other things that you don't love, my philosophy is that there's other people that are great at it, and they should be working with you. You should be only doing the thing that you're great at and that you love. Now I do realize in the beginning it might not be that way when a person first starts on their own as a solopreneur, as you said. But when you understand that information, you could quickly ramp up and to create that environment for yourself. I've designed my whole life so that I do almost nothing that I don't like to do, right? I do the things that I love to do. And somebody once said to me, yeah, but how do you stretch and grow? And I'm like, I stretch and grow by my goals. I don't have to do things I don't like. I can learn to do things better that I absolutely love, and that causes me to grow. And here's the thing, I don't have to force myself to do it every day. I get out of bed every day and I live my life with doing all things that I absolutely love to do, right? So it's like heaven on earth in your life. And I also hire people that love their positions just as much as I love what to do. And I have, like, I'm very proud to say that the culture in our company is just absolutely amazing. Everybody loves what they're doing. Everybody's paid top of scale. Everybody gets as much freedom as they want as long as their work is done. I never have to ride herd over anybody to get anything done. They all accept responsibility. But those were the values that I wanted to bring to the company in the beginning in order to create this work environment that is just such a pleasure to work in. And I think that anybody can do that.
Yeah, one of the things that I really appreciate you emphasizing is the fact that you want to hone in on and do the things that you are good at and enjoy doing. I think there is a philosophy out there that says take what you're struggling with and study and learn it and become better at it. And there's something to be said about it. But when you can double down on the things that you're great at and do those so much more, I think you excel because that's where your expertise lies and that's where your passion is. And it's going to be evident to anyone that's kind of at a distance watching you. So I liked how you pointed that out. So being an accounting podcast, having accounting professionals listen, I want to ask about your business. What are some of the numbers that matter most to you as you're running your company? What are perhaps either the KPIs or the financial numbers that you use to make decisions as you're running your business?
That's a really great question. So we have KPIs as far as how much cash we want liquid within the business. I made a decision in 1998 that I would never again pay a bill late. After going through the bankruptcies and all that stuff, I said I said this is a standard. If I can earn a certain amount, I can make more than that to always make sure that bills are never paid. And since 1998, I've never paid a bill late, personally or within the company itself.
Mhm.
So one of the things is knowing how much needs to be current revenue generated on a regular basis and make sure that that's done. And that's primarily my responsibility to front lead that. Even though I have salespeople, I'm responsible to make sure that that number never goes backwards. That it's always actually moving forward. I have an operations director that keeps an eye on the other numbers, like marketing numbers, financial numbers, all of that. I really don't get involved in that much. I mean, I get a report every week of what's going on, where the money is. We have people that forward forecast how much we're going to need months in advance, all that. So we can make intelligent decisions. By the way, speaking of that, that's an important number. For me, it's a very important number. I want to know, based on everything that we're doing, how much are we going to need when, futuristically, 3, 6, 9 months out in the business, even 18 months, like depending on when we're doing events and stuff, so that the percentages that are necessary for the fulfillment of those things, including taxes and anything else, are always put aside so that money is always there. And it's never a strain on the company or any individual in the company. So those are the things that are very important to me. I suppose if you were to talk to, like, I don't suppose, I absolutely know if you were to talk to anybody else in our business, they would all have a set of numbers that would be very important to them as part of the whole.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you're running your business by the numbers. That's one of the things we emphasize here is the idea of actually using key metrics to identify what's going on in the business, having standards. Are we meeting or exceeding those standards? It makes the business a lot easier to run and operate when you have quantifiable things that you're tracking. But now I'd like to ask you to do me a favor. Do
Yeah.
me a favor and speak to my audience. These are accounting professionals. As a business owner, someone who's successful, tell me what it is you would like to say to them as it relates to the role they play in your success. How valuable is the accounting professional to your success?
The accounting professional is everything, absolutely everything. So in the beginning, I didn't have an accountant. I started off with having to learn how to run my business on a budget. So I did an old-fashioned budget. I did it on a ledger with a pencil and a calculator. I wrote the checks out and rectified the checking account every single month myself as an individual. And I realized that, number one, I didn't like doing this, but it did something. It gave me an intimate connection with those numbers, and I stopped being afraid of them because I was scared to death of what they were. I did not want to look at them. I didn't want to see them. So I did that for a year, and then I hired a bookkeeper, and then I got an accountant after that. But I didn't have any business intelligence or around the idea of what the skill sets of this person needed to be. So I had people that were just kind of crunching numbers, but they couldn't give me any advice as to what to do with these numbers, right? They didn't, I wouldn't even say that they were a bookkeeper based on what I know today. But when I started to realize what the importance of what they do and the information that they have and the suggestions of information that they can give you, it totally changed the wealth within our own company. Because now I understood the numbers. I understood why we were doing things that we were doing, not playing catch up, understanding how to manage the money, understand the forward forecasting was the thing that just blew my mind. Right? When somebody came to me, when my bookkeeper came to me and said, "Are you open to me sharing my thoughts on this?" I said, "Yeah." I said, what is it?" And she started to explain to me. She says, "Well, I can tell you exactly how much money you need to be earning now so that we don't end up in a problem 6 months from now." And I'm like, "You can?" And she's like, "Yeah." She said, "We have all the numbers to do that." Now, this is 20 years ago, but it changed everything. I mean, because now I knew exactly what we needed to sell, when we needed to sell it, how much we needed to sell. So it all filtered down into all my business decisions every day to make sure that those numbers were great. It's one of the most important positions within the company itself, period. And I think that they should understand that. I think they should be paid accordingly for that. And I think that they should take that very seriously as far as the level of importance that they bring to any entrepreneur or business owner.
You're speaking my language. I appreciate you sharing that because I clearly believe that the numbers are essential to running a successful and profitable business. So I'm glad to know that that's actually been very helpful to you and impactful in your success. So that is wonderful to hear. Now, the last question I have is simply this. I know that you've made the comment that it's easier to make millions than thousands of dollars. It's a mindset statement.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
Because, well, when you're making a low amount of money, the only strategy that you know is to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
And working hard to make money is the worst strategy that there is. If you want to become wealthy, you have to get off of working hard and you have to understand leverage. Leverage is what allows you to really make a lot of money, millions, but like hundreds of millions, billions, whatever. You've got to understand leverage. So the key is for a business owner is to really understand, do they actually have something that they can leverage? And how can they actually do that? I got fascinated with how fast my income went from 20,000 to 62, because after that, I went from 50,000 a year. When I started the business, like the first few months, I was making about the equivalent of 50 a year. I turned that into a monthly income in 3 months after I made the decision. Never went backwards from there, and then went over $1 million. And it was like, okay, I got it. I absolutely understand this. First of all, I wasn't charging enough. I wasn't charging what I was worth or the value that I brought to my client base. So I learned that really quick. That got me up to 50,000 a month in 2 weeks when I made that breakthrough. The other thing that happened was my mentor said to me, "David, why would you work all year for $50,000? He said, "I wouldn't even get out of bed for 50,000 and you work all year." And I thought he was just like teasing me. And when I got off the phone with him, I thought, okay, if this was going to be as easy as it could be, what would that look like? And I said, well, I would have one client that paid 50,000. Now, then I didn't think that I could do that. But I said, what can I do? Now, I was charging $495. I raised it to 15,000 and I broke through that threshold in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I totally get it. Now, so then I just kept growing from that standpoint forward. Everybody that I work with, from a coaching perspective, in any way that we're working with them, one of the first things that we do is we show them that they're basically charging what they believe that they're worth. And we work on their self-esteem to get it to a place where they can literally charge based on the value that they bring to the end client for themselves, and that they don't have to go through this ritual of trying to justify their income to themselves or to anybody else, which I think is just huge. You should want what you want because you want it, not because you need somebody else's approval. And that's a whole nother interview. Like somebody else, wanting somebody else's approval to succeed is horrific.
No, what you're bringing up there, I think, is powerful. And I appreciate that mindset approach because clearly it is a lot of just how we were raised, our relationship with money. It's a lot of things regarding the value of what we see, what we offer there's a lot of what we're I think, talking about here, very applicable. So one of the things that I'd like to do here is, as I transition, is point out to my audience that we have an offer that I'd like you to take advantage of. David has what's called the Quantum Leap Blueprint. It is basically something to help you take what it is you're doing and walks you through 5 essential mindset shifts that separate highly qualified entrepreneurs from the rest by helping you 12x your income without working 12 times harder. So that's one of the things that I'd like you to take advantage of. Go to the episode description. You'll see there the information you need to take advantage. It's free. So get a copy of this and actually take these principles, these 5 things, and see what it is essentially that you can be doing in your business now to really get paid what you're ultimately worth. So that's definitely something I want to emphasize with you. The other that I'd like to promote is that of your Strategic Accountant. It's a book that I'd like you to actually take advantage of. It's a book that was actually written to help you understand what are those core services that you should be providing that your clients expect from you, and basically position it so that not only are you providing these quality services, but you're retaining the clients and getting paid what you're worth. This is actually 12xing your business as it relates to what it is you can be providing your clients to retain them, but have them pay for the quality services that you're providing so that you can in fact get paid what you're worth. So get your free copy also of Your Strategic Accountant. In addition, Universal Accounting Center is promoting today's podcast. It's here that you can actually become a certified professional bookkeeper, a certified a certified professional tax preparer, as well as a certified profit and growth expert. These 3 designations are meant to represent your ability to proficiently and competently provide these quality services as it was related to providing quality accounting services to your clients. So definitely take advantage of that. Now, as for a summary, I'd like to dive into a few quick things here to recap what we've discussed and then come back to David for a closing thought. As a summary, I loved his story to begin with. I mean, clearly we each have in our lives those pivotal moments where perhaps our life does flash before our eyes. We realize that there is so much more potential, and there does need to perhaps be a mind shift that we have to actually make in ourselves. And he was able to identify 3 key things that I think were pivotal to his changing his situation. It was, first of all, getting out of that job mentality, changing what he was wanting to do and willing to do to be something passionate for him. It was also the quality of the work that he was performing, recognizing that he needed to do something he could be proud of. And then lastly, it's working with the people around him, not being angry and upset and taking it out on the people that he's interacting with, but rather uplifting, positive. That's one of the things that's very contagious. And as he implemented those things, he quickly found the opportunity basically manifesting itself so that he could actually now take his current situation and go to another level. And he did exactly that much quicker than he realized. He took advantage of that opportunity and found himself now in a situation where he can help others. In doing so, we talked a little bit about mindset, getting out of the various things that we self-inflict on ourselves. He pointed out the value of sales. I think that's very important that we recognize that of all the things that matter most, nothing happens until you make a sale. Related to that, we then talked about processes and the importance of delegating, recognizing that to be a true entrepreneur, we have to get out of thinking that it has to be done by us. Yeah, that the old adage of if it's got to be done right, it's got to be done by me. Well, let's get away from that and find processes that we can implement in our business so that we can confidently delegate those, have other people do those things, and in doing so, focus on those high impact, those high revenue type activities that only we can do and do well. And he did emphasize the importance of focusing on the strengths that we have, the things that we do exceptionally well, honing in on those and doing those much, much more. And that's where we're going to leverage our success. And so lots of wonderful things here. Definitely wanted to point out again, taking advantage of that offer that he had of getting that blueprint, the Quantum Leap blueprint, to essentially identify those 5 essential things that you need to 12x your income. So all those things being said, David, what would you like to leave as a closing thought?
Wow, that was a lot. We did cover a lot. I think what I'm just sitting here making notes as you're saying this. I'm like, did we talk about that much? What I'd like to leave everybody with is to understand that you are your own authority. And when you realize your own authority, that carries through to your customer base. They want your help. They want your advice. You don't have to ask permission in order to do business with them. You don't have to ask permission in order to be paid what you want, and you don't have to ask for permission to give them the best advice that you can. That should be expected. So when you step into that, your life changes, your business changes, your income changes, and it gives you a renewed sense of purpose, I think, at least in my experience and the people that I work with in their life. And allows you to command what it is that you're worth and the value that you bring to the individual businesses that you work with. So that's, I think, where it starts.
Beautiful. David, I appreciate this. I've enjoyed the conversation. I think we shared some wonderful insights and excellent things that people can actually take and implement. So I hope everyone was listening and taking good notes, because clearly some gems were in here. As for my listeners, I want to encourage you, if you haven't already subscribe to the podcast. We'd love you to get notified each and every week when we release new episodes, sharing these various insights as to what it is you can be doing to build the premier accounting firm in your area. As for today's show, we do also have highlights, playlists that we've compiled that you would basically be able to focus on various things that you would find applicable to your current situation. So I invite you to go to universalaccounting.com, and there in the navigation, find the podcast section where we've compiled these highlights, playlists of various things that are topical to your situation, ranging from marketing, selling, pricing, tech stacks, staffing, mindset, all of those things that you need to consider as you're working in your business, and most importantly, apply to your current situation. So go binge listen and take advantage of those. In addition, I want to again point out GrowCon. If you don't have your ticket yet, get your ticket now for GrowCon. This is an annual conference that we do for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. GrowCon is a conference you do not want to miss. We put on the stage the experts to help us actually understand what we can be doing today, cutting edge, and be relevant for our clients, helping us work on our business. It's here you also get to meet your peers, those other individuals like yourself who are successfully going out there and building their businesses, make these connections, build friendships, and more importantly, collaborate. Also, you get to meet my staff, those individuals who are committed to helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal. This is an event you do not want to miss. If you do not have your ticket yet, go to universalaccounting.com, and there in the navigation, find GrowCon. There, get the information as to the event details, but more importantly, get your ticket today. And I look forward to seeing you there. As for the show today, if you'd like to actually find out more what it is you can do to offer quality accounting services, become certified as a professional bookkeeper, a professional tax preparer, or a profit and growth expert, definitely go to universalaccountingschool.com. It's there at Universal Accounting School that we actually have information related to the various programs that Universal offers to assist you in becoming what I refer to as the premier accounting firm in your area. So check that out, or give us a phone call. You can speak with us directly about these concepts and many more by calling us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is Universal. Take care and have a great day, and be safe out there. David, that was awesome.
Great. Yeah, thank you. It was fantastic.
Here's what I'm going to have you do. Go to the chat. That chat is where that text is. I'm going to have you do that little promo piece.
Okay, sounds good. Let me know when you're ready.
You're on right now.
Hi, everyone. This is David Neagle. And let me start over. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Didn't see the little piece. Okay. Hey, everybody. It's David Neagle. It was absolutely fantastic, amazing, and a total amount of fun to record with Roger an episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. We discussed mindset, delegation, processes, sales, numbers, and a whole lot more. So I invite you to listen and join us.